Woohoo. Hello, hello. Test, test, 1, 2. There we go. All right. I'll pin my video to the screen and say hello. And I'm going to stop the recording. Here we go. Okay. So I'm going to change videos to this video here. I think is the overhead video. No, that's the side video. I always do this wrong. Okay. So this is now my overhead video, and I'm pushing away my stuff. And I'm going to bring my bird's eye cam right over into the center of my workspace. I have tried to adjust the lighting to be as totally advantageous and balanced for you guys to be able to see me drawing, especially with pencil, with graphite. But I am also going to play around drawing with the ink a little bit, because it gives me a whole different range of values to draw with. So I would like everybody to do the value scale that I assigned last week. And now I'm using the value scale as one of the tools at my disposal while I do my drawings. So I'm going to push this off to the side. I'm going to take a look at drawings. I have started several drawings of myself, and so I'm playing the game with doing drawings. So I've got a photograph that I'm working off of, and then I've got a drawing that I want to work off of. And so we're going to do this in terms of drawing. So I've used a photograph, and actually the version of the photograph that was done on paper, to trace this straight off of the paper. Somebody asked me before class started whether maybe we could try tracing off of the actual computer screen. And so if you've got your image up on your monitor and you try to take a piece of paper and actually hold it up over your monitor, and if you can see the image, on the monitor through the paper, then yes, by all means, tape the paper to your monitor and then carefully try to trace all of the shapes, for your ears and your eyes and your nose and your mouth, the shape of your head and everything. And then I also want you to trace the outline of the shapes of all the different shadows and shadow shapes. So if there are shapes of shadows on your nostrils, on the side of your nose, shapes of shadows that are around your eyes, underneath your eyes, over the top of your eyes, we got to get the shapes of all these different values and shadows in the composition. Up in the forehead, there's going to be a whole bunch of shapes. There's going to be a shape for the value that is in the temple area on the side of your head. There may be another shape if there is a small depression in the front of your head, like, if somebody like hit you there with a pipe or something, you might have a small depression in the center of your head like I do. Or over on the other side of your forehead, there may be a shadow shape. Well, that's a shadow shape to capture. And we want to draw a contour line around that shape. And then later on, we're going to fill in that contour with a shading, with a value. And then we're going to start playing with trying to adjust the harshness or the depth or whatever of these shadows to try to make a drawing that kind of works. And so I'm going to try doing that. I do have the chat box on, so if anybody wants to type in a question, I'm watching the chat, and I'm watching you guys entering the classroom today. Oh my God, a lot of people have just showed up here, so this is good. And I'm just trying to see if there's anybody I missed. Okay, haven't missed anybody. So I'm going to start drawing this, and then I'm going to ask Logan if he will let me draw on his drawing, because Logan sent me a drawing, and then I printed it out. So I've got a printout of Logan's drawing, and I'm going to draw on it a little bit to see if I can't show you guys how to fix things and make things better and that kind of stuff. I'm going to draw on a printout of another drawing. That'll be fun. Can you open the value scale assignment in eLearning? Yes, I will do that. Sometimes these things are closing and we're missing deadlines, and I'm just happy to go right back in and open up the assignments. So thank you for asking. I will do that. I'll go back and open up those assignments. So here we go. I've been working especially on some of the details in the eyes just a little bit more, because my idea is that the eyes are the windows to the soul. We've all heard that one before. And why is that? Why are they so interesting? Why are they a focal point? Because the values in the eyes are so close together and they have such a huge dramatic variety of value. We have deep values in areas of the eyes, and we also have high key values. We have hot highlights. We have the whites of the eyes in the eyes. And so they can really show a huge variety of value in a very short, small space. And that's why they're so interesting to look at, because we've got the wide variety of values in here. And I'm just kind of, I said it before and I'll say it again, I'm dancing value in here. So I'm just kind of using a scribbly, kind of a hatching line to kind of strengthen some of the values that are in here. But, I'm just kind of scritchy, scratchy with my pencil, trying to make these areas darker. And like my glasses frames are super dark, so I'm going to just scratchy a little bit in there. And I don't really care if I go outside the lines. I don't really care if it's exactly the same as the photograph. In fact, I kind of hope that it's not exactly the same line quality as the photograph. I would like it to be a little bit more expressive and to express just a little bit something that's maybe artistic. And artistic is just, it's hard to define because like every single person has their own idea of what's artistic. But you guys probably think that art is about being perfect and being technically superior at being able to draw. And that is not true. Art is about personal expression, and everybody can be an artist and everybody can draw. And so while I'm talking about this stuff, I'm just going to dance a little bit more value into these glasses frames. And they're not perfect. Sometimes I'm going outside the lines, and sometimes the glasses frames fade from a really strong line into something that's not quite so strong, and that's okay. That's kind of what photographically happens sometimes in the photograph too, and we can play with that to make it even stronger or weaker in the photograph to satisfy our own artistic needs in the photograph. And so over here, I'm just going to make this a little stronger because this is the actual temple in the glasses. And this is the cast shadow of the temple on the side of the face right here. So this is, it's a little softer. It's an amorphous shape with kind of amorphous edges to it. And we're going to do the same thing over here with some of the shading that's on this cheekbone over here. We're going to just kind of dance that a little deeper and maybe do a little bit more in terms of the cast shadow or the shadow on this cheekbone a little bit. And sometimes we have to make stuff up. Sometimes we have to elaborate a little bit as artists on something to see if we can make something up a little bit. I tried to be able to do the shading on the nose to actually follow the contour of the side of the nose here. And so I was trying to do this hatching so that the hatching would actually follow the contour of the flesh on the side of the nose. And on the front of the nose, the same thing. Since this surface is kind of flat to the viewer, I kind of went straight across on this surface. And on this surface, I came down at an angle like this so that it kind of actually tried to follow the contours of the nose. The shadow that's right here on this part of the nostril, there's some shadow on the lower portion of the nostril, and then there's a little bit of a highlight right here on this top portion of the nostril. So I want there to be shadow here and highlight up here. I have lots of bells and whistles going off on my computer. And so maybe more people are coming in. No. Okay, and there's nothing more in the chat. Okay, so I am going to look over here at the photograph, maybe at this part of this cheek right here, and see that there's just a little bit more deeper value as we go over to this edge of the cheek over here. And I don't have that value quite as deep here. So I'm going to double down on the value right over here next to the cheek. And I'm just going to go a little bit deeper with it right there and try to do that so that that gives another piece of dimension to that shadow. And so that also helps to balance out this deeper shadow that I was doing over here on this cheekbone. And it also helps to balance out a little bit the deeper shadow that might be happening in this ear and this ear cartilage over here to get this and this shading and this shadow and these shadows over here to have somewhat similar strength across here gives a certain structure, a certain conformity of structure to the composition. Now, it looks like the bottom half of the face is stronger than the top half, of the head above the eyes. So I may have to then go back up in here and strengthen some of the shadows that are up here to make sure that I've got, more value and structure up here so that this isn't so interesting and has so much both, visual diversity going on, but also stronger shadows that it pulls the viewer's eye down into this part of the composition. To pull the viewer's eye back up into this part of the composition, I may have to strengthen these shadows just a little bit, put some hair on this guy over here because he has no hair and he needs some hair, and I may have to dance the hair in. So I'm going to go and make that just a little bit raggedy and just a little bit funky over here, just as if he's got, some kind of hair there. But actually, I'm going to go to a different drawing right now and totally freak you guys out. This is the one I was doing with the morning class. And sometimes you have to even look at the background of what's going on in the background, and all of this broccoli in the background, all of these trees with all of their different foliage, with different highlights and lowlights and stuff in the foliage. I mean, that's really difficult to draw. And so we're going to simplify it a little bit. I'm going to simplify it. And so I see this dark, I see this dark area of broccoli right up here, this shadow between a couple of areas of the trees in the background. And that's what I started to pick out over here. And I'm just kind of, again, I'm dancing this value in just a little bit more deeply and kind of doing it like this. And so it's kind of going in as a, almost as a doodle, a randomized kind of a set of doodles, so that it has a different quality than the more rational hatching and cross hatching has that's actually in the photograph itself. And so I'm going to come in here, I'm going to dance a little bit of the hatching in here just a little deeper. But when I'm out here in the broccoli, because it's in the background and it's out of focus, and it's not something that's a super important part of my composition, I might use a slightly different pencil stroke on it. And so I might have this be a whole lot more of randomized, gestural kinds of broccoli shapes and textures that are kind of dancing around in the composition, so that the background has a secondary nature to it that is not as, that I don't care about so much. So I'm not spending a whole lot of time on it, but I do have to kind of like block it in, because by giving the background some value and some shadow shapes in some areas, it actually helps to set off the portrait in the foreground. Since we have a bald head up here, and there's no such thing as an outside contour line in any of these shapes, all we can do to set the background off from the foreground is a change in value at the edge of the shape. So the top of the head is high key, high to medium key, and the background is medium low key. And so at the edge of where those two shapes come together, that's where the contrast happens. But there's not a line there. I really want to get away from having lines in the composition. And I really only want to have the idea of implied lines. An implied line is a line that sort of is an edge between two different shapes that have two different values on them. This is sort of linear and kind of a linear form, but it really doesn't have an outside contour line to it. Again, it's kind of got some value danced into it, but it really isn't a value shape. Okay, Okay, so hey Logan, I have a question for you. I have to ask your permission to do something. Um, Logan, can I draw on your drawing in front of everybody as kind of a demonstration? Please say yes, because that's pretty much all I had to do for the next 15 minutes or so of class. Um, you can either unmute your mic and let me know, or you can type it in the chat. But with your permission, I'd like to go ahead and do this. Or should I say, if you don't like just totally throw a fit and tell me that I can't do it, I'd like to go ahead and do it. Okay, so here we go. So I've got my value scale here, and I've got the drawing, and it's a wonderful drawing. It's the beginning of a drawing. Logan, let me know, was this something that you freehanded, or was this something that you traced off of a photograph? Because it'll help people.
I traced the outlines, and I like did most of the shading freehand with reference.
Good, fantastic. This is wonderful. Okay, so I like this. You're kind of leaning forward in the drawing. Your shoulders are up a little bit. The neck and the opening of the shirt is just a little bit off here. But anyway, I wanted to play around with this and maybe try to fix a few things if you wouldn't mind. And since this isn't your drawing, this is just a printout of it. No harm, no foul, right? Because I can do that. One of the things I want to show people is that sometimes the eyes can get really, really vivid, or they can look like a scared animal in the headlights, basically. So I would like to bring these eyelids, especially this eyelid, down a little bit lower. And then I'd like this eyelid to kind of maybe, I'm going to dance a little bit of this eyelid lower to try to get it to be somewhat closed, because a relaxed eyelid for a human is like only 2/3 of the way open, and it's 1/3 of the way closed. So we want to have this eyelid closed a little bit. I might want to take some of this pupil and take it up just a little higher, or even make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to turn it into something that has a photographic highlight in it that's off center over here. But so this eyelid is going to kind of come down like this. I'm going to find the corner of the eye down here, just like this corner of the eye is over here. And we're maybe just going to, put a little bit of value on that eyelid a little bit. And there's going to be a little bit of value underneath the eyelid, just a little bit. There's going to probably be a highlight right here on the top edge of the bottom lid. And so I'm going to just dance a little bit more value in there. And we're going to do something about this tear duct thing over here, and maybe just a little bit of value over here. With the eyebrows, I'd like this eyebrow to kind of maybe, the brow bone is here. Oftentimes the eyebrow kind of goes up and over and kind of arches over the top of the eyebrow bone just a little bit. And I might want to change just the shape of the eyebrow a little bit, and so that it's a little bit lower inside here towards the eye, and then it goes up over the eyebrow bone just a little bit, and then maybe comes back down and touches the eyebrow bone again, like that. So I'm going to play a little bit with the shape of the brows, and just to get them to go up in the middle just a little bit, and maybe to then come down and relax at the end again, like that. And then the whole eye socket that's defined by the bony eyebrow up here and the cheekbone down here, this is a depression in the face. The eye sits inside of an eye socket. So I may want to start, you've started a thing here with the shading on the side of the bridge of the nose right here. And I wanted to kind of continue that. This even looks to me like it goes kind of fanning out a little bit right here. And I wanted to kind of continue that idea of the hatching kind of fanning out across the bottom of this eyebrow, eye socket area underneath this eyebrow here. So I'm going to take and fan some hatch marks so that they fan out kind of around the eye like that a little bit. And if it looks too much like mascara, or if it looks too much like eye makeup, I'm going to pull it back and knock it back a little bit. I'm going to play with this eye too. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to close this eye just a little bit more, bring this eyelid down just a little lower. I'm going to bring this eye, maybe make the pupil of the eye just a little bit bigger, and change the iris so that the iris is cut off. We can't see the top of the roundness of the iris because the eyelid is kind of closed there. And so the iris generally for people who have kind of fair skin, light skin, Caucasian skin, whatever, usually the iris has a little bit of a darker edge to it out here and here. And then we might take some of our values and maybe hatch lines and just kind of, again, with the same kind of radiating kind of idea, I'm going to radiate some of these lines kind of coming out from the pupil in the eye like that. So if you can see what I've done here, I have softened your eyes and I've closed them just a little bit so that they don't look so stark and harsh and wide open. And by relaxing the eyes, it makes them so much more, pleasant, kind of to look at. And so we're just going to kind of play with some of these values, that are some of the shadows around the eye. So I'm going to come down here to the nose. Now, your face is going that way just a little bit. So the tip of the nose is going to be out here. I'm going to try to find the tip of the nose and try to do a little bit of hatching to try to kind of create the idea of the tip of the nose. And you've already put a little bit of hatching in here to give us a little sense of the shadow on the lower portion of the nostrils, which is really good. And we may just want to also try to find this side of the nose just a little bit and work that. See how this shading on the side of the nose is following the contour of what's happening on the bridge of the nose, and then it works itself right around and right kind of into the eye socket over here. And this is similar, but since the nose is facing ever so slightly in that direction, the tip of the nose is going to be out here. Maybe a highlight is going to be over here, and some shading is going to be down here. And so we just want to get this little bit of kind of harsh shadow that's in the nostril to be just at the edge of the nostril, and then let the shading that's on the back side of the nostril just kind of be a lot more of an amorphous edge so that it just kind of fades and doesn't do anything. And then coming up from the nostril or from the upper lip, we're going to have the philtrum, which are those two kind of parallel lines that those two ridges of skin that kind of connect to the septum that's in the middle of the nose. And then we've got those two ridges that connect up to these 2 points. What do people call this? The Cupid's bow. This whole shape of the upper lip here is kind of called Cupid's bow. And so we're going to kind of play with that. There gets to be a little shadow there and a little shadow there. And then on the lips, you made the lower lip kind of the same width as the upper lip. And I don't like that. With human lips, I like the lower lip to terminate before the upper lip terminates. And so the upper lip kind of goes on beyond a little bit. And so I'm going to do just a little bit of value hatching, cross hatching. And in fact, I've got my value hatching. Again, it is kind of going on a diagonal in that direction over on that side. And right through here, it's fanning across here. And then over on this side, it's going on this diagonal, going in this direction over on this side to create a sense of that fanning action happening on that lip. There should be on the lower lip, there should be maybe a couple of highlights, photographic highlights here. And then there's going to be a change in value as the light is not hitting the upper portion of the lip. So something like that. And perhaps a little bit of shadow underneath the lip. So there's going to be a little bit of that stuff going on. And you've got a really good sense of some shading underneath this kind of hollow under the cheekbone and in front of the cheek here, off to the side over here by the jawbone. And so I wanted to pick up on that, but I also wanted to do it on a diagonal that, kind of again, brings the eye in towards the nose a little bit. So this diagonal is going in this direction, these hatch marks, and this one is going in the opposite direction. They're going up towards the nose like that. And so that gives us, you know, kind of a thing going on like that, and maybe just something to try to start to define the chin a little bit. So I know there's a chin there, and you've got something going on here, maybe for that wonderful, do you have one of those dimples in the middle of your chin right here that would have a little bit of a shadow inside that dimple? Because that's kind of what it looks like. And I see on the hair, you know, you've created a shadow edge right in here where the hair comes up against the forehead. But let's pull some more shadow out here into the forehead. And again, I'm running that as a diagonal set of hash marks going up that way. And I would probably do a similar kind of a thing coming kind of around this side too. And then with the hair is really difficult. We have to try to, let's move your hair a little bit and give you just a little bit more kind of sense of movement. Give your hair some body so that it's going to flow around these curves that you're kind of creating here. But let's let the individual strands kind of interact with each other a little bit and cross each other and have a little bit of an S curve to the strands. And that kind of loosens up the hair a little bit as it's moving out. I like this flip over here where the hair is kind of flipping out. That's kind of fun because that shows us your mischief, and that kind of shows us a little bit of energy and life in the hair. That's kind of fun. It also shows that you need a haircut like everybody else in the COVID world needs a damn haircut. And then maybe some shading on the side of your neck, that kind of thing. So I've played with this a little bit just to kind of show you that there's all kinds of structure here in the drawing already that is, it's good, and it gives a lot of good sense of the structure of the face and some of the basic shadows and values in the face. And that all that we need to do is just kind of continue to develop those things. In fact, this area right here where the eyebrows are, I might even play with another fan-shaped shadow across here. Sometimes I will do something like this, and it kind of comes down here to this spot on the nose right here, and it's a shadow, and it should be a lot softer and higher key than the actual, you know, hairs in the eyebrows. So eyebrow hairs are going to be a different texture and a different, you know, quality to the drawing. But, you know, even when I fan out something like that kind of a value in the that area just below the forehead, that's a nice place to do that too. So I have recorded all of this, and so all of this is available for you guys to look at again and work through the boring parts and kind of see what I'm doing in terms of mark making in the drawing. But I don't expect you guys, you know, to have to draw, you know, perfect, wonderful drawings. If you could pick up a little bit of drawing skill in some of this kind of nasty little, you know, demonstration that I'm doing, that's great. But I'm just playing at this. I'm just kind of dancing value into spots where there are shadows. And I'm trying to look, you know, at the original photograph and translate whenever possible the stuff that I can. And I'm trying to use a little bit of my knowledge of, you know, details like eyes and nose, nostrils, and mouth and stuff to pull him a little bit out of the weeds in terms of being able to give just a little bit better finish to the drawing. But he had something that was really good. And so I'm just building on it. And I want you guys to not be afraid of this project. I want you to just dive in with both hands, dive in with both feet, and work on it. Please don't hesitate. If you get a drawing started and you want some help with it, go ahead and send me a copy. Send me a digital copy. I will print it out, and then I can do this same kind of thing on Wednesday or Friday to kind of just play a little bit with developing the drawing in terms of some ideas about where to go with it, especially if you feel like you're getting stuck and you just don't know where to go with the drawing and you're just stuck for trying to figure out what to do. That's where I really like to play, because I can be quite helpful like that. And so I'm using right now open value composition, where my values are blending together. The edges of my values are kind of blending together. So I don't have hard edged value shapes. I have very soft, for the most part, value shapes that have amorphous edges to them. The only place where I have hard edged value shapes are in the eyes, where there are really sharply defined edges to the shadows and the shapes. But out here in the cheeks and the cheekbones, there are no sharply defined shadow shapes at all. And so they're going to have a much softer, more diffuse shadow edge to them. And so you guys can just play with this all day long, trying to find out where the smile lines are and how that stuff kind of all works in the composition, and assigning various kinds of medium to medium high key values throughout all of these wonderful shapes. And it'll be great. And we'll have something to talk about, especially if we're going to do this again next time, like on Wednesday. Don't hesitate, if you want some help, to send me your drawing, and I would love to continue drawing your drawing as part of a demonstration on Wednesday, where we can all learn just a little bit more about the drawing process. And when I get into a problem, or when I get into something that isn't working, the eraser is the answer. And so we can always dig ourselves back out of a problem, out of a bind, with the eraser too. If you have any questions, please ask. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Unmute your mic and ask me a question, or write it in the chat, and I'm happy to answer. But I'm gonna pretty much bring this to a halt today.
Mr. Fritz?
Yeah.
Do any of the classes you suggested to me, do any of them have Zoom meetings?
Don't know. I don't know how those particular classes are going, and so I will I'll work with you on that. We've only been able to create a couple more classes that are face-to-face classes for winter quarter, and so I know that some of you guys are not doing real well in Zoom classes. I'm sorry about that. I apologize for that. We have to try to do the best we can with this Zoom format. And your teachers are trying to understand that and do the best they can in working with you. But I'll look at that for you. I think I'm going to have to leave it here for now. So let me remind you that I have a Zoom office hour every day at noon from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Please join me there with any questions that you might have. Don't hesitate to email me your questions if you have them. And if you want help on your drawing, you got to send me one of your drawings. And if you can send me your drawing, no matter how crappy you think it is, or how much, whatever, I can show you ways of fixing it and improving it like this. So I'd be happy to do that. Otherwise, you're going to have to actually trace something onto a piece of paper to get something started. And then we'll help you move it along and improve it. I'm going to come up to my face now, I think. It's time to be facing you guys. So thank you for hanging out with me today and learning a little bit more about the drawing process and how values work in a drawing. Values are the structure of drawings. And in fact, with this lighting system here today, I have deep values and I have high key values. And values are how we see things in contrast to other things. So I'm going to end it for now and see you guys on Wednesday. Good luck with your drawings. Please get something started, because you can't get anything finished unless we get something started, and I will help you through that process. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you again on Wednesday.